Hey everybody, welcome. It is August 14th, 2024. This is the RambleCast, and I'm your host, Cody Toombs. With me, I have Corbin Davenport.
Hello.
And come on. What was this week gonna be? Like we knew. We knew. There were no secrets. Google made it all perfectly clear. In fact, actually I would argue Google wasn't very good at keeping secrets, even going into its event. So, yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about that. But we have a couple of other things to babble about as well. It's what we do. But anything interesting going on with other than the things we're actually going to babble on?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Um,
I'm giving you the opportunity to pick on any other thing in the meantime. Or in
I
the
don't think so. I just lately it's been some wrestling with TypeScript and Node on a project. It's been I'm still adding stuff to my Synology NAS. Um, Gonna try to get a Quake server on there soon. It's gonna be great, hopefully.
which one of these days I swear I almost want to have like skip talking about news and talk instead about the NAS because I
Yeah,
still
that's your day. That's your day off. It's all right. I'm gonna put Corbin on and go take a nap.
no it believe me that's I would not leave that alone, not for a while. No, more because it what what I find so interesting is and for people that don't know, there's obviously a few details here and I'll kind of fill in beyond just there's a NAS. Um I sent Corbin an old NAS that I've been using for years. Um it is at least 7 years old. It might be 8 technically by now. Anyway, it's it's a pretty old box, and it's only a 2 bay. It's a Synology. It does have a GPU inside of it, so it's capable of like live transcoding and stuff for say Plex. But yeah,
Well,
it's
it's an integrated GPU, right?
yeah, it's an
Yeah.
integrated GPU. But the key thing is it has an H.264 and H.265 encoding hardware built in. So the thing is though, realistically, like if someone was to go buy this it just off of, I don't know, let's say eBay or anywhere else, they'd get it for like $100, probably a little less. Um, and it's not a high powered box, not by modern standards, certainly. I mean, every NAS I've reviewed in the last like 3 years could all just blow this away in terms of like just their natural like base power. So far, you have like you've been using it a lot, which I think is also part of the interesting thing because I've suggested NAS boxes to you many times in the past, and you've kind of said nope, not interested, not something that you want to do. Since you've gotten a ton of use out of it. You've done a lot of projects with it, and you now have quite a few things running on it, and you're still not even stressing it, which I think is in that part. I think is also interesting because it's it's old enough now that if it were a desktop computer, well, certainly if it was a laptop computer, people would have already thrown it out. Like no laptop usually stays in service 8 years. Desktops, maybe 8 years. Like, and probably with an upgrade somewhere in the like 4 or 5 year mark. I think the interesting thing
Yeah.
here is it, it's a box that is just standing up to all the pressure. It's not even breaking a sweat with the pressure that's being put on it, which isn't a ton, but still. and it's easily outlasting your typical like desktop or laptop.
Yeah, I think it's still getting security patches. I'm sure that will end sometime soon, but like I'm not planning to like have this be like a public server or something, so like it's
Yeah.
probably fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as long
if
as
I
it's
get the
sitting behind
Quake
a
server
firewall, I wouldn't
running,
worry too much.
yeah, yeah, if I get the Quake server running, there'll be like one port that's connected to the internet, and if they can hack me through Quake, that's fine. You know, that's just how it goes. But yeah, no, it's. I mean, I was going back and forth about a NAS versus like a more standard like home server versus something else for a while because like I didn't think I could do everything I wanted with just a NAS, but nope, that's like it's some stuff takes more fangling, for sure, but it's pretty solid. But yeah, I've got Diablo said, "How much of a fear is loss of data ever true?" So I'm not hosting critical infrastructure on a NAS. I'm not. I know some people try to play that game where they have like their whole like quote unquote cloud on self-hosted on these things, and then they like also have to set up a NAS like at like a family member's house somewhere far away, so they have like a real secondary backup. It's like I'm not doing that. It is almost entirely data that is it's either backed up somewhere else or like I don't care if it gets deleted. It'd be an inconvenience if it gets deleted, but um, like right now it's a like time machine backup for my two Macs, so it's the backup. So if that blows up, whatever, I can back it up again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a torrent server that's mostly stuff I can get again. I just set it up so it's a backup for my cloud storage with like incremental backups. So again, that's where it's not the primary thing. It's also I've got it set up with a TV tuner, so it can be like watch TV with DVR. I don't care if that gets deleted; it's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm not using it for anything critical. It's just like a lot of stuff that like is helpful, and you know I've got it set up with the two bays, so if one drive dies, I can go. I just bought another. I thought I had a backup drive, but I didn't. So I just got another drive that I can slot in whenever one of those drives fails, and it'll repopulate all the data. So yeah, I'm not. That's one thing that like people try to do with these things. I'm not. I'm not doing that. I'm not self-hosting my email. Those people are crazy.
Oh yeah. No,
So,
I know people who've gone to those extremes, and I get it. Like certain things,
yeah, no,
I totally get it.
yeah.
But man, when it sounds weird, but I feel like I would feel uncomfortable putting all the responsibility on myself to be the IT admin for things like that. Because
There's so much stuff that can happen, like especially when you don't have like an offsite backup person. Like, oh, did house fire? Great, you've lost everything and you've lost all your data.
yeah.
That would not be fun whatsoever.
Well, and not
So
only that. I mean, that's certainly enough, but there's also the angle of when something goes wrong, how much time do I want to spend fixing it? Look, if let's say Gmail goes down. Fun fact, there are a lot of people who are getting paid over $100,000 a year to get that stuff fixed ASAP. If my goofy little like self-hosted cloud solution goes down, how many things do I lose or do I not have access to? It could be a lot of things. How much am I getting paid to fix it? Nothing. How much time is it going to cost me to fix it? Lots. Very likely lots. That's not a good deal. That's a terrible deal. I do not like that deal at all. So
yeah, I wrote about this in an editorial on How to Geek a long time ago. I'm sure I could write it again, but I did write something that was like, the downside of being your own IT guy is you have to be your own IT guy. And yeah, I wrote that whole thing. Like Google has like crazy data centers with like cutting edge security and all these backup measures and offsite backups and everything. Like for like important stuff, yeah, I'm just gonna keep using OneDrive and Microsoft 365. It's fine, you know.
Yeah.
If I was running, an illegal drug operation or something, I probably wouldn't do that. But it's fine.
So yeah, and look, I'm of the general opinion, like if you want to run this, oh, well, okay, there's the idea of using it for data backup. I'm a big fan of the idea of, yes, absolutely use your NAS for data backup in addition to another form of data backup. Like you can absolutely have 2, 3, 4 redundant backups going on, and that's probably for the best. But you want offsite backup. You want if you're going to do local backup, you definitely want something that's good and reliable and not going to take too much of your time and effort either. When you're talking about running services, pretty much everything needs to be of the form of low effort, and probably low consequence if it fails. Or if it fails, fixing it should pretty much always be a simple thing. Which to some extent, like Docker is sort of good for that. Like if anything goes wrong with a Docker image, granted, diagnosing it might be a nightmare because Docker sucks at diagnosing problems. But if it's something you can predictably say, oh, it went wrong because some server it connects to changed their address, or you're gonna have this thing go down or that thing fail. If it's as simple as that, chances are you can get it fixed in a few minutes and just basically get it all reactivated and moving along. Other things, like if you've got, I don't know, an email server, if things are going wrong with your email server on a NAS or any self-hosted solution, you could be spending hours, days, maybe weeks trying to solve this. And in the meantime, how much email do you lose? How much data do you not back up or have access to? It is not worth it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been messing with. We can talk about that sometime for a longer. I guess we were already talking about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't intend to turn that into a topic already, but hey, it kind of happened.
And Brawl in the chat is talking about running Windows on a old Lumia phone, which is fun. I have a Lumia 550, I think. I got that at like the tail end of like Windows Mobile being like a usable mobile platform in any way, and I liked it. I thought it was cool. There was a time period where I think it was after my Nexus 5X pooped itself and stopped working, and I didn't have another like usable phone, so I was using that for a while before I got my I think it was the original Google Pixel. And that was when I had like a real job and I had to go do shifts at Target. And it worked great. Like great battery life. It had like a Snapdragon 200 chip in it, like something that if it was in an Android phone would be unusable. But on that, it was totally fine. That's when Microsoft had like a good email app, and there were actual like Twitter and Instagram apps that were working in official. Very brief time when that was true. Edge on mobile was fine. Good phone. I every once in a while I miss Windows Phone because it had some good ideas.
Yeah, no, believe me, I still look back on it and I think that was it was a shame that we lost Windows Phone in a way. I mean, there are other things that I look back on it and I think, okay, yeah, we're probably actually better without it, but at the same time, there are things that we really should have gotten to keep. Not least of which, and I know that this is a divisive thing to say, but honestly, I really like the UI. I didn't like
Yeah.
their home screen. Sorry, their home screen sucked. But I really did like the what they called the Metro UI, which later became Windows style UI or something. I forget exactly.
Um, I think it was Metro and then Modern. I think they just
Oh
called it
yeah,
Modern
well,
after that.
okay, they went to modern and then they eventually called it Windows
It the
something.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the same thing, but the
Well, it was,
replacement
yeah,
for
it was
Modern
close.
was Fluent, and that's what's in Windows 11. But yeah, no, I like that. Like, there's a lot of UI stuff that was cool. Um, but anyway, speaking of things that are cool, there's a new Raspberry Pi. So this is Raspberry Pi Foundation released the Raspberry Pi Pico 2, which is their new sort of like base board, not like low end thing. So, sorry. Um, the Raspberry Pi Pico is not. It's very different from the normal Raspberry Pi, which is basically like a full Linux computer. This is a less powerful board that does not have a built-in like video output or anything like that. So when you use this, you have to like. I have a Pico one, or no, it wasn't a Pico. It was a Pi. Might have been the Pico W, but anyway, it was like this. So I had to plug it in the USB into my computer and then SSH into it to use it. Um, so this doesn't have like a little HDMI port. You'd need to plug in like another board to have a display if you want something like that. But it does have it has two fast 32-bit cores, some built-in RAM. It has a lot of pinouts for plugging in I/O boards. So this is less for things that like you might use a computer or a server for, and more things like you're building a project where like maybe you would use an Arduino board, but this is better. A lot of like embedded stuff. I'm sure Raspberry Pi is going to sell trucks of these to like people making smart billboards and that kind of stuff. A lot of embedded, like small scale stuff. But kind of the cool thing about this is that it has both ARM and RISC cores, or not cores. I think it like has a firmware that switches or something. It's been a while since I read this, um, but let's see. Control F for RISC. Um, do sorry. Yeah, so thanks to a bonus feature of the CPU core, which is the RP2350, it has a pair of Open Hardware Hazard 3 RISC cores, which can be substituted at boot time for the Cortex M33 cores. So at boot, this can switch between running as an ARM device, like every other Raspberry Pi, or a RISC device. So that's pretty cool because there aren't a lot of cheap and accessible RISC devices yet. So it's kind of hard to get into that ecosystem and test software and that kind of stuff. So this is a much like a very accessible way to try out RISC, because this is $5. Yeah, it's $5. You won't get it for $5. That's just like the MSRP. So whoever you buy it from is gonna need shipping and everything else. But about somewhere like $5.
Plus, wherever you get this from is almost guaranteed they're probably going to be selling them in kits with some of the other things you're going to want with the board. So
Yeah, because like if you're not already like an electrical engineer or something, like you probably don't have a lot of the stuff on hand to like make this usable. Because yeah, it's not like a Raspberry Pi where you can like plug in a USB port and an HDMI port and go off to town. Although I guess like this should support just hooking the USB directly into the computer and SSHing it like the other Picos.
Yeah, I would argue that the other Pis usually come in kits too. Because again, like what you're getting is usually, or a Pi by itself is really just the chip and the board, but you probably do need the other. You need other accessories. You probably need a few other things in order to make
the kits usually. So. Yeah, the kits usually have like a case and a little like heat sink you can stick onto the CPU, power supply, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, power supply usually factors in a decent bit. But yeah, anyway, so just because it's more than $5, like you're probably still not going to spend any sort of high amount on this. I'm just ballparking, but I figure instead of $5, you're probably going to end up spending like 15 to 20 for whatever kit. And then in theory, you could just order more of these to use with that kit. And each of those could possibly run like $5, $6, $7.
Yeah. So pretty cool board. I don't have a use for one, but it's cool.
I mean, I always have ideas for little projects that I'd like to do. Anything from I don't know, like something that you could attach to, let's say, a washer and dryer to notify you over Wi-Fi that, hey, it's done, or I don't know, something that can trigger or run small electronics or run a motor or something like that in whatever setting or situation. I always want to do stuff like that. I just never do. So yeah, I always want that. I just never bother with it. So one of these days I will get around to goofy little projects like that. I just don't, or haven't.
Yeah, and definitely when there's a lot of things that are not practical to run on a Pi, but if you can run them on a Pi, like energy usage is like zero.
Oh yeah.
Like they just sip power. You can plug this in and then forget it's there. It's basically just like a light bulb. Not using a lot.
Yeah, and I would almost...
especially the Pico. A normal Raspberry Pi would, that's about like leaving a phone charging all day.
Yeah, that probably checks out though. The funny thing is with the discussions of phone charging and specifically fast charging, it's worth noting that even a phone charging is probably taking more power than what most Raspberry Pis will, just because they don't need the fast charging speeds. They don't need to pump that much power through the wire. But yeah, anyway, this is pretty cool. I certainly would like to mess with it. I just don't know that I'll get around to it. It's one of those things, by the time I would ever get to messing with it, the next one will probably be out, and I should have just waited. That's almost how it always is. So the I don't have a good transition on this, but I figured let's just take a quick moment to talk about Sonos. So the news hit earlier today. Sonos is laying off 100 employees, and they and pretty much everyone else are blaming the absolutely disastrous app that they released I think it was late last year. Maybe it was earlier this year. I forget. Anyway, um they rebuilt or kind of replaced the Sonos app for iOS and Android, and the app has been a total disaster. Um, People are unhappy with it. It's kind of crashy. It's buggy in various other ways. It doesn't work very well. Um, it's missing features. There's a lot of complaints. They've blamed they've done the one thing that they can do, which is blame themselves and at least kind of take an ownership of this. But for the most part, they're not really like doing that. They're not doing a good job with this. And now they're going to cut 100 people from their workforce, which they say represents about 6% of the company. And this is going to give them, how did they phrase this? It's a necessary measure to ensure continued meaningful investment in Sonos's product roadmap while setting Sonos up for long-term success. Yeah. Okay, so that's a punchy line to basically say that they don't know that they won't go broke if they don't fire a bunch of people. Obviously some of the talk has been blaming it on the CEO. I completely agree. Their CEO is not good. And obviously a lot of the blame again falling on the app. I'm actually going to throw a third thing in this. Here's my hot take. The other reason the company is struggling and why they're not making enough money to keep people employed is because nobody wants to work with them. Let's be honest. This is a company that they saw an opportunity to basically abuse the patent system over and over and over again. They decided that they were going broke, so they were going to try to attack Google, which I'm not going to say Google was innocent in that situation. When you read the details, it's pretty clear neither company was innocent. But Google attacked an actual close partner. Or sorry, did I say that wrong? Sonos attacked a direct close partner. And they put Google into a position of having to counterattack. Who wants to work with you after that? Sonos basically did nothing but make news about stabbing a partner in the back. That's the only news anyone heard for like 2.5, 3 years about Sonos. That and, oh yeah, they're still expensive and these days no one likes them that much. And that's kind of the thing. Like, that's I think why the company's actually not doing good. Is because they have made it very clear they are just not a company worth working with. So everyone out there is, I think, just watching Sonos, waiting for them to die so that an active patent troll is no longer relevant to patent trolling. Anyway, that's my thinking on this. Corbin?
I'm not super tuned into Sonos world. My guess would be them being a patent troll is a factor. I think it's also a factor that I said this in the Discord, I think, but reportedly this layoff was mostly marketing people, which is just kind of like the default for a company when the current economic vibe is like just slightly not good. Like if there's a recession coming, or we're in a recession, or like just the the whole like global advertising market has been kind of wonky for an extended period of time. So that's kind of what companies like to do. If they're not making a buttload of sales, it's like, all right, well, what do we need the marketing people for? And to that point, Sonos has supposedly delayed some products until they get their app fixed. So if there's no products for the marketing people to market, then that's an easier justification for them to get laid off. Still a very shitty thing to do, but that's what you do when you're a soulless corporation. I'd also say, like, just kind of in terms of the global economy still being kind of wonky, kind of on the verge of a recession, this is the time when a lot of people are not spending thousands of dollars on audio equipment
Yeah.
for their house. So that could be a factor. I'm just guessing. So, yeah, that's a shitty thing to do, but pretty typical.
Yeah. And again, kind of, it just feels very on brand for Sonos. They make bad decisions over and over again, and as companies go, that really the thing that kept them going is being sort of the Apple of the audio world, and progressively that's not something people want, I think, or it's not working out very well for them. So yeah, I mean, I predicted this over and over again, but I feel like Sonos is not long for this world.
Or maybe it is working out for them, but it's just like a niche that they fully saturated, and they're a company that needs to keep growing. So when the growing stops, like, they freak out and fire everyone.
I mean, yes, but I think it's kind of the other way around too, where I think they fully saturated it and then ran into a problem where like they don't have a good continuing income. So as a side effect, people just don't need to replace their stuff all the time.
This is the issue Apple has right now with Macs, where they made their Macs too good.
Yes.
So there's a lot of people like me who got the M1 Macs, and like 4 generations later, they're like, "You guys want to buy a new Mac?" I'm like, "No, mine's fine." It's sorry guys, you did too good the first time.
It's actually funny. So this podcast that I listen to, I've mentioned many times, I'm way behind on it, but coincidentally, I just got to the point in history where the M1s were announced, and well, they'd already been announced, but it was finally the release of the first consumer models of the base M1 chip. And listening to them talking about it is hilarious. In particular because one of their listener questions was like, how long are people going to be able to hold on to an M1 Mac? Like, how long are they going to be able to use it before whatever happens and they kind of become outdated or sort of pushed to the side? I'm listening to that and it's like, yep, I bought an M1 Max from a few months later, and I'm not even remotely interested in replacing it right now. But, well, let me take that back. Like, I would if I could just throw the money away for giggles.
Right.
But
I would as well. If I had unlimited money, be like, yeah, I'd like a slightly faster computer that also maybe has like a nicer screen or whatever.
yeah,
I would like MagSafe on my MacBook, but it's not necessary.
but all said and done, like, I'm happy with it. It's working great. It's high performance. It doesn't overheat. It doesn't have any notable problems. I mean, the chip is gonna stay relevant and performant well past the other parts in the computer failing. Like, I'm more worried that the fans display, actually the keyboard. Look, they fixed their keyboards, but their keyboards are still a little prone to trouble. Yeah, it's all the other parts of the computer I'm worried about going bad before I feel like the chip is the problem.
Yeah, until Macs have games, and then there's my reason to upgrade. But Macs still don't have games, so I don't really need to open Chrome and Slack like 0.3 seconds faster. That's okay.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. One of these days we'll get to be able to point to Max and say, "Yep, I can just play the games I want on there. I don't need to rely on a Windows machine." But until that day comes. Um anyway, so let's see. You made the comment earlier, and I'm just forcing a transition here, but you made the comment that people don't need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on audio equipment right now, but they are inclined to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on new phones, new earbuds, new pretty much everything else, as long as it bears the name Pixel. Because there was, in fact, a Pixel event.
That's true. That did happen.
Yeah, you know what? We all talked about it. We already know. Let's stop and go home. We're good. No, I'm kidding. We're obviously going to babble about this. Though, funny enough, I feel like we have. In part because of leaks. We didn't even talk much about leaks, but over the last several months, it feels like almost everything that Google announced kind of was already known, with a few small exceptions. So this wasn't the best kept set of secrets. No, it was fake. I mean, certainly some of the things that happened yesterday felt like they couldn't be real. In particular, show of hands for anyone who felt that way watching the Keke Palmer after party. Because, oh my god, that should not have been real. Corbin, I'm sure you skipped that, but it was.
Oh, I didn't. I did not watch the stream at all. I was too busy.
Okay.
I was doing other stuff.
I'll tell you right now, not watching the even the mainstream, kind of a good choice. Not watching that after party, holy god, that was so bad. But anyway,
that's good. I'm glad some things never change.
Oh, it was the epitome of cringe. Austin didn't watch the stream either. Well, of course not. You were living it. You were hanging out, dancing with Keke. Isn't that right? Pretty sure I saw you in the video. But no, all the cameos, of which there were many. Oh my god, there were so many random celebrities that they just decided we're gonna have a weird little sketch moment with oh damn it, I'm blanking on his first name, but the basketball player Butler. They had him on stage. They did a whole sketch with him going to get shoes with a Google engineer. They brought in, again, Keke Palmer. They had Mark Rober, which the Mark Rober thing, at least that was just like an awkward calling him out from the stage as opposed to Jimmy Butler. Thank you. But yeah, at least the Mark Rober thing felt sufficiently just like normal. The other stuff was just weird cameos for cameo's sake. The Mark Rober thing just felt like, okay, he's actually here for real. Like he actually would have just shown up if he could. So we're happy to have him. But anyway, yeah. So the product announcements, though, there are now Google phones. There's more Google phones. There's a new set of earbuds. There's a new watch. Let's see. The Nest products weren't part of yesterday's announcement, were they?
No. The Nest stuff and the Google TV box were the week
that was last week.
Previous, yeah. Which is weird. I don't really know why they did that way, but whatever.
Let's see. Austin saying Jimmy Butler was so nice. Kiki was so fake. Mark bolted out of there. Oh, really? Did he? Well, Mark was in the after party. They specifically interviewed him, so I could kind of see that being a thing. Uh, Kiki, yeah. Look, I don't get the fascination. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't get the fascination. Um, but yeah. So the Nest stuff from last week, I agree. It seems weird to have done that as like just a micro announcement. There was really no presentation to it. They just came out with blog posts for the Google streamer or Google TV streamer and the Nest products. Yeah, it seems like they could have just spent 5 minutes on stage to introduce each of those things at this event. They didn't have to put a lot into it. They could have just put those up and been like, "Hey, this stuff's here too," and they basically didn't even acknowledge it, which I don't really get why.
Yeah, that was a little bit weird to me. Like, I can see focusing on other products because Apple's done that too, where they'll like subtly drop things you don't care about, but usually that's not like the week before another event.
Right.
But I don't know. I get it. I guess it's not like as sexy to talk about like a doorbell or whatever. But you know,
Well,
what do I know?
was the doorbell even part of the new lineup? I know I know they had the Nest thermostat, but
Okay, that might be what I was thinking of. I know there was the Google TV and the one other thing.
okay, yeah, I think it was the
My brain is
thermostat.
fried, so I don't remember exactly. I'll get back to you.
I'm actually with you on that because I have not had much sleep over the last couple
Yeah.
of days.
You are watching two people just barely coherent. This is great. This is also still better than whatever the presidential debate is going to look like next month.
At least one coherent person should be at that, so that's a plus.
That's true.
Well, I say at least, but I think it at most also. So,
Yeah. So I guess we can go to the phones first because that's kind of the big thing. So the Pixel 9, Pixel 9 Pro, and Pixel 9 Pro XL. So there's three of them now. We're up to three.
mhm.
So basically, what Google did this year is I was going to try to compare it to iPhone, but I guess it's different because Apple now does a little phone and a big phone. And both of those have Pro variants. But here, Google made a little base phone, a little Pro phone, and a bigger Pro phone. So if you want big phone, but not pay all that much money, too bad, so sad. So the two sizes are there's a 6.3 inch smaller pixel phones, and then the 9 Pro XL is 6.8 inches. Google says they're the best and brightest screens yet. I always love when the blog posts are like, "It's our best yet." Like, yes, it's your newest phone. I would hope so.
Yeah.
This would be more impressive if you were like talking about like your new Pixel A phone and you were like, "This is the best screen we've ever made." I'd be like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting."
Yeah. Yeah, no, that would certainly be a choice.
Or if they announce this and we're like, actually, this is one of the worst screens we've ever made. We found some old panels lying around that we're not doing anything with, so they're going in this phone. Sorry.
I mean, somewhat unintentionally, that is kind of what they did with the Chromecast HD.
Yeah.
They already had a Chromecast that would pump out 4K, and they're like, "Oh, so by the way, we're making a cheaper kind of crap model. You guys can have it
Yeah.
for like $10, $5 less, whatever. I don't remember how much it costs, but yeah, they have done that. They're just not in quite so honest of terms."
Yeah. So they've got, kind of what everyone is expecting. It's got a Tensor G4 chip. Again, they say it's their most efficient chip yet. I would hope so.
Hey, now that's one that you can't always count on. Remember the HTC well, it wasn't just HTC. It
Yeah,
was everything
it
using
was the,
Qualcomm's Snapdragon.
I think it was 801, 801
Yeah,
to
yeah,
810, one of
yep.
those. Yeah, whichever one was being a little toasty.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a bad year for phones because every phone that came out, it's like, all right, it's our newest phone. We're not saying any. We're not making any other promises. It's our newest phone,
Yeah.
and
We
yeah,
think you should just have a bag of ice nearby. No reason, just just in case.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
but
but
yeah,
yeah,
this has G4. One thing that's interesting is they bumped up the RAM, and they specifically mention on-device AI being a reason for that, which is in line with, like, I think that's kind of what we were expecting. Is a lot of the hardware that's been fine for the past 5 years or whatever is going to have a more noticeable leap to fit these AI models. So here we see Google pumping up the RAM, and before the big AI push would have been like, you don't need a phone with 12 gigs of RAM. I'm sorry, that's silly. What are you doing on your phone? But now it's like, okay, you want to run an LLM in the background. Okay, I think I get it now.
which,
So
all things considered, I don't mind that. That's uh, well, I mean, I do mind. I, there are parts of me that look at this and do kind of wonder how much is actually going to get run. How much do you actually need that RAM? And is this really what a lot of people want in their phone? I get why Google wants to do it, and I kind of don't object on that basis because this is a company. They're making a product that is meant to serve that market. Fine, I don't object to that. But what kind of worries me is I think this is going to become an across the board sort of thing, as every company in the next year or 2 years is going to come out with phones saying, "Hey, we piled RAM high and deep on this thing just to cover AI." And for those that don't know, like, the more RAM you have in a device, the more that uses power. Um, and just in general, the more AI you have in a device, or the more AI you're using in a device, that's consuming power. This is going to this is going to hurt battery life. Maybe not noticeably, but it is going to. So, like, improvements we could have gotten to battery life are not going to happen because of this.
yeah, I think it depends on how much they're doing locally and how much is like in the background. That's battery life is definitely something I'm going to be curious about on the iPhones, because Apple made it clear that Apple Intelligence is going to like run a lot. Like, it's going to be, whenever you're searching for stuff, or a lot of time when Siri is running. Um, Here, it doesn't really seem like they talked a lot about AI stuff, but it's mostly still, I don't know. Like, I guess the right word is like something you're actively choosing. Like, it's not just like a thing that's always going, um, necessarily, but we'll see. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of AI stuff. I don't really have any hot takes about the AI stuff. I've not looked at it closely. I saw on my Mastodon feed there was another round of the um, the takes that we now get after every phone event, which is like, is it good to like have pictures that are like extremely fake? Like, Google showing up demos where they're like pretty radically altering pictures you take with the camera, and whether or not that's like a good thing. Um, which I'm not saying it's a bad discussion. I just think that, like, it's interesting that this is now every every phone launch. Now we saw this with the recent Galaxy devices. Before this, it was like Samsung faking the moon in pictures, and now we've moved on to this where every company's going to show how you can like radically modify pictures you take, and we get to have the discussion again about whether or not it's a good thing. Um, so, and there was all that, and then also I thought was interesting and was at least from my view overshadowed is the fact that Google actually has satellite SOS now. Um, that's great. Took them a long time to copy that, but I'm glad they did because that is like definitely a useful thing that has definitely saved lives. Um, being on the iPhone, um, I've used it exactly once on the on the iPhone. Well, not the SOS. I used the other thing you can do. Yeah, thankfully I've not been in danger. That's a good thing, but I did use it to update my Find My location when I was like totally away from all cell towers. It's kind of cool. Um, but Google's doing a very similar thing here where you can contact emergency services via satellite and it can share your location. And they're doing the same thing as Apple, where it will be free for 2 years. Um, I guess starting from when you get the device is when they're counting that. That's what I would assume.
I expect so, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And now, the interesting thing about that is that the first iPhones with that were the iPhone 14, which is coming up on 2 years old. And Apple hasn't said how much they're going to charge. So Google gets like a while to see how it works out for Apple doing this to see what they might charge Pixel owners for this.
I
So that's going to be interesting.
uh I could be mistaken, but I thought I heard Apple said something about they were extending another year on the free support for that. Maybe I'm making that
Um,
up, but I thought I heard that at some point. And maybe I'm thinking of a different thing. Maybe they extended some other thing, but and that
you
has
are
been kind of the
correct. Yeah,
pattern, huh?
you are correct. Yeah. So they did announce in
Okay.
November 2023 that it would be an additional free year for existing iPhone 14 users.
Okay.
So they do. So we now are up to a year out from when Apple would start charging for this in theory. So yeah, Google gets to sit on the sidelines for a little bit and see how it works out for Apple because I am still very interested in how Apple charges for this
Oh yeah.
because all the great press they've got from the satellite SOS saving people and the same thing with like the Apple Watch like calling emergency services when someone has a heart attack or whatever that can turn around very quickly if the articles become like uh, I
Person whose
needed to
life
give
could have been saved.
yeah
It
yeah
wasn't because they didn't
person
spend
like
15 bucks.
yeah, person stuck in a ditch, telling the local news about like, oh, I had to try to put my credit card in so Apple could call the 911. Um, so that's going to be very interesting. I'm very interested to see how Apple handles that in a way that doesn't create a lot of bad press for them.
I I find myself eh, so I didn't want to specifically comment on Apple, but I think this applies well enough to Google as well. But I really hope that their strategy is just um, sort of a hey, if you need this, there is no subscription, no like overcharges or anything like that. Just when you need it, you use it, and we'll charge you after the fact. Like that needs to be, if they're gonna ask people to pay for it, that should that should really be the strategy. And I know that it means it's going to cost more with each use, but that's fine. It's better than paying subscriptions on it.
Yeah, that I seems fine to me. Maybe that in addition to like you get it for free if you have like the iCloud Plus, at a
Sure.
certain tier, whatever. I could also see them. This doesn't solve the problem of like I had to put in my credit card number so it would call 911 for me. But I could also see them doing like a per device key, like an unlock. Like
Right.
you get your iPhone, $50, whatever, and it's unlocked for like the entire lifetime of the device.
Yeah, no, I was always well, not always assuming, but I've generally been under the or I've generally pictured that it's a thing where you just use whatever payment method you have on your account. And you should not obviously have to enter a credit card just to use emergency services.
Well,
Though,
this is America.
yeah. Um
Love it here.
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, the satellite support or satellite SOS is definitely a cool addition. Um, I think we're probably going to see almost every major phone coming out with this over the next couple of years anyway, so I don't know that it's huge, but it's good that it's there. Um, Also kind of another interesting choice is Google is launching something that is basically almost exactly like Windows Recall, which of course, as we all know, just got completely booed out of existence for a while. So the funny thing is, I don't hear anyone yelling and screaming about Google doing it outside of the fact that everyone's just highlighting, oh yeah, they're doing a thing that is basically exactly like Recall. The notable exception, and I would call this the obvious exception, Google does not have the database or the images out there where any other app can casually, freely access them. Now, that's not saying that if someone, that's not saying that this is entirely better. Like, if somebody gets your phone and has it unlocked, they can still go looking through it. They can still check various things that you screenshotted or done, but it's at least because Android's like app sandboxing and security is so different and so much stricter than Windows. Yeah, they like the inherent security risk of just having other software on a machine. That part's not relevant here, which makes a big difference.
Well, the other big difference is that it's only searching screenshots you have manually saved yourself. So
Fair.
we've we've bypassed the entire conversation of like, oh, why is there like an automated log of everything happening on my screen? Um,
Though I would raise the possibility that it may not be too long before Google just says, you know what, we're gonna kind of just do this for you, or we're
yeah,
gonna make it an option. Like you just tap a checkbox and holy crap, now it just auto
which
screenshots screens.
yeah, but like I get like if they do that and it's like a thing you have to opt into, that seems fine to me.
Yeah,
Like I'd be fine with like recall on Windows if it was this way because Android already has like APIs for like blocking screenshots that apps use if they have private information on screen or if it's anything DRM'd, it won't do a screenshot. Like all those APIs are already done. Yeah, Android already has like the storage protection stuff. Apps cannot go dipping in folders; they're not allowed to. So that would be fine to me if they implemented that later on as an opt-in thing, because Android is much more equipped to do that than Windows.
mm-hmm. um let's see. As expected, obviously AI was still a big talking point through the entire event. I will give them a little bit of credit for as much as I think everyone expected this to be the classic drinking game. How many times are they going to say AI? I didn't count, but it was way less than I think most people expected. Um, not to say they didn't talk about it extensively, but it wasn't the only thing they focused on.
Yeah, I would hope that some of that was paying attention to the response to Google I/O, which was the worst thing I've watched in a long time from a tech company. That was horrific. and also the difference in audience here, where IO I think has more eyes on it from like corporate type people, and possibly, I don't think it's a lot, but at least some investors watch that kind of stuff, and judge how the company is doing based on, like I said, is like Google's big like products thing of the year, whereas this live event and like their blog posts and stuff is like at normal people. And I would hope
Yeah.
that Google's marketing people know that normal people do not give a shit about AI stuff. They just don't. So the fewer times you can say AI is probably better. Um, they still have to
I
ride the line a little bit because they have to be seen as doing this. But
yeah.
yeah,
I think there are ways that I would maybe augment the framing of that, or kind of how it was said. But yeah, I generally agree. There, um, the Made by Google event is very clearly products meant for consumers. They're not they're not doing any of that stuff trying to speak directly to partners. They're not doing it in the sense of like pushing APIs developers are supposed to use. That stuff is not for this event. This event is 100% here are products that you can buy off of store shelves. So yeah, the pitch has to be aimed at that type of a consumer. Whereas with Google I/O, your quote unquote consumer can literally be someone who's not going to spend a dime. They're going to spend their time using an API, or they're going to build a product that uses your technologies. And yeah, that there are differences here. That being said, I I think you were somewhat giving too much credit to consumers. Um, I think there is a not okay. So I'm gonna say this, but stick with me through what I'm saying. I think there's actually a pretty sizable portion of people that are very interested in AI, but they're not interested in the way that we normally make fun of tech bros for being like AI obsessed. They're interested more in the way of they really are the person who's sitting there going, I've heard about this AI stuff, and supposedly it can write like thank you letters, or it could write this or write that. I hate that stuff. I'd use that. You know, I think there are a lot of those people that that these features are definitely aimed at. And likewise, I think there are some people who are looking at, let's say, the like the content aware fill style of like partial image replacement. I think those people are probably seeing this and going, ooh, I really like the camera effects that it would be able to do. I'd like that. I want that. Whether or not these people are watching this show, I doubt that. But some of that stuff will still reach a lot of those people.
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Um, let's see. So yeah, that kind of covers the Pixel Studio AI thing, which that I'll give them this. Their demo was nice. It wasn't super exciting, but it looked a lot like what Adobe has been demoing in Photoshop for the last year. Let's see. We'll come back to those. I'm skimming over to see if there was any other phone related stuff that
Well, there was the folded boy.
yeah, was I know that they okay, I admit I partially tuned out a bit during the fold. Okay, before we get to the fold, really quick, I just want to There was one thing we didn't say it specifically, though you kind of touched on it. The Pixel 9 Pro XL is exactly the same. Well, it fractions of a millimeter different in size to the Pixel 8 Pro, whereas the Pixel 9 Pro is basically the same size as the Pixel 9. So I know you basically covered that, but I just wanted to really highlight they basically kept it identical. Like, I think the Pixel 9 Pro XL, I'd be shocked if it wasn't case compatible with the Pixel 8 Pro cases. It's that close.
I'm sure they'll find a way because all of them do. We can't ever have cases that last multiple generations unless you're Apple.
Now that I think about it, there might have been one dimension where it wasn't, but I'd have to see. I honestly would be kind of surprised if it wasn't. Let's see. But anyway, yeah, onto the Fold. What were...
Also, I gotta go after we talk about the Fold.
Oh, okay. What were the differences in the Fold other than they made it a little bit more premium? Or better feeling?
I'm not up to date on how it compares to the first Pixel Fold. I know they say in their announcement that it is the thinnest foldable, and I know they've changed the screen size and aspect ratio a little bit. And I guess kind of the interesting thing here is that Google is now updating it. I think it has the same Tensor 4 chip, right?
I think so.
Yes, it does. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting that Google is now adding a foldable phone as like part of their main lineup that presumably will get updated at the same time as their other phones, which is not something that Samsung does. Samsung does the foldable phones like 5 months after the S phones are out, and they're kind of still their own thing in the same way that the Note was its own thing when it was around. Mm-hmm. So I think that's interesting. Google, it's more closely related now to the rest of the Pixel phones, and I would imagine this is probably what Apple will also do whenever they get around to making a foldable iPhone. But yeah, so now it's part of that, generation. It has the same chipset, so there's not like a trade-off now. Like, I want the folding.
You're not buying last year's chip with a phone that comes out just a few months before the new one.
Yeah. Austin says the camera bar is taller.
Okay, so not case
Austin
compatible.
Said it's thinnest in the United States, so Xiaomi or whoever is beating them.
Yeah, that checks out.
It's always the Chinese OEMs. It's always the cool phones we can't get over here.
Otherwise, the Fold, like, good for them. They made an improved model, but and it now actually fits in with the family properly, as opposed to being just kind of this weird thing on the side. Otherwise, I don't know. It's the latest. It doesn't. The thing is, hardware-wise, it didn't feel like they really made any significant big steps with the Pixel 9 series at all. Obviously, they upgraded a camera. Those specs, even though, as Austin's pointed out, they didn't want to talk about them at the event, it's pretty notable. The specs are just on the webpage. Like, people can look up the megapixel count for the cameras. So they made some changes. But I kind of also agree somewhat with some comments Kirby has made where, yeah, these sort of felt like an S release for these phones. They're good, they're updated, they're improved, but it seems like Google wasn't trying to blow anybody away with specs this year.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if you really need to. Like, I guess I don't know if I get any more the argument for, like, phones specifically need to be major differences on a per generation, because I think of phones almost like I mean they are sort of the same as cars, right? Where you get one, you use it until it's busted up and broken and not working right, and you get the new one. And the upgrade there is more just you have a new phone versus like, oh, I need to, pay attention to what the clock speed on the chipset is, or whatever. Um, Especially when it's now very firmly entrenched that like a lot of people will upgrade their phones on fixed 2 or 3 year life cycles.
I think that
So
was
like
already pretty well entrenched, but yeah.
yeah, so like
Um,
yeah, like this is also kind of how I felt about like the Samsung phones for the past couple of years. Like yeah, I'd like them to trickle down more features from like the Pro models to their base phones. Samsung has had that issue for a long time, but like if the phone's already pretty good, and this year you just put in the new chipset and like whatever else you've got, sure, man, that's fine. Yeah, it's the same thing with. I mean, it's the same thing with like Android as an operating system and a platform now. It's like yeah, every year the OS upgrade gets more boring because like it's fine. Like there's just not a lot left to do. You got peak phone. Um, it's more just adjusting to you know fixing things Google did wrong 15 years ago because no one could see how that would affect phones.
yeah,
So
though there are occasionally trends and phases where some new thing comes along and they have to sort of scramble to support it, which uh, we didn't see that this year, but I think there will be like I don't want to say OS level, but I think we're going to see APIs tied into a lot of the AI based capabilities. We haven't seen that
well
yet, but I think it's coming.
there is yeah, I mean there is that to an extent where Android apps I believe can hook into like the Gemini Nano model, like that's in like Play Services, I think. And Google is doing a similar thing with Chrome right now, where I believe Chrome now ships with Gemini Nano, and that's what feature powers a little bit of the AI stuff. And they are building a web API for sites to be able to use that for like rewriting text or whatever. Um,
I think this stuff for apps is still a private invite thing.
okay,
I could be wrong, but I know they were putting out a call inviting people to do that. I don't know if they ever reached the point of saying, "Okay, we're making it open to everyone." I'm pretty sure that day will come, but I don't think it's here yet. Um,
yeah.
um,
Also, breaking news: it seems like GitHub is down right now.
oof.
Yeah, there's your breaking RambleCast news update. I know all of you come here for the latest news as it happens. So there you go.
Yes. Breaking colon. It's broken.
Yeah. So my hot take on foldable phones is I still don't really have one because I've never got to review one, and I'm not spending my own money on folding phones just because that it still makes me nervous that they are inherently more fragile than a normal, my normal brick phone, normal phone over here. So if I'm going to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a phone, I'd rather have the more boring one that will last for longer and be more durable than the foldy boy. I would like to try a folding phone at some point, but the opportunity has not presented itself. But I have played with them a little bit at like Best Buy. I'll go check this out whenever there's a floor unit of this, just so I can feel like I'm up to date somewhat and I'm not completely lost.
Um, yeah, I mean, my I've already said this plenty of times in the past. I don't intend to buy a folding phone for quite a while. Um, So yeah, the only way I'm likely to end up with one is if a review unit should mysteriously fall into my lap, which, considering where I work, that sounds like it'd be a thing, but it won't be a thing because these only go to 1 to 2 people. That being said, look, I'm a big fan of the idea of folding phones and folding technology. Like the rumors that Apple's working on a folding iPad, I'm totally into the idea. But in practical terms, I think we're still going to be a few years out from this being a really good thing versus just a trendy thing that's going to cost a lot and require much earlier replacements. But hey, who among us doesn't love the idea of an iPad that you could actually carry in a pocket? That'd be tight.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying. I just don't want to spend $2,000 for one.
Exactly.
Which, speaking of, how much is the Foldy Boy? Foldy Boy is
Oh, I know. I just saw it and I don't
pre-order. There's not a price on the blog post. That's a good sign. There's a blog post on the. Oh yeah, starting from $1,800. Oh god.
Oh
yeah.
It's
That's
not
not
cheap.
my. That's not in my budget.
No,
I can buy several Mac Minis with that.
Yeah, that's actually true. Well, oh yeah. Actually,
For those of you not, yeah, for those of you not in the loop, there's now a running joke where I have too many Mac Minis because I now have the Mac Mini that is my main computer that I'm using at this moment. I have my 2014 Mac Mini in my closet. That was my computer in high school. That is like half broken, so it's not being used for anything. And now I have a third Mac Mini over there, which is my new like quote unquote retro Mac. So I do in fact probably have too many Mac Minis, but that's because there's no overlap in functionality between any of them.
I'm
that
not.
One runs old stuff. My new one runs new stuff. One in the closet doesn't work, or just barely works. It's clinging on to life.
The only way in which I would argue you have too many Mac Minis is just the fact that you have one that's basically dead.
Right.
If it weren't for that, I would say you're okay.
That one, yeah, I could recycle that, but it's fine. It's not. It takes up so little space in my closet. And I did actually, I did pull it out to use it to try to get the new Mac OS on this one because I will eventually finish my blog post adventure about this. But this 2010 Mac Mini behind me now simultaneously runs Mac OS Snow Leopard from like 2009 and Mac OS High Sierra or whatever the current one is. What are we on? Sonoma. It's running Sonoma on the same Mac Mini, and getting Sonoma on there was hell. That required the other Mac Mini because my new Mac Mini is too new to make the OS image because Apple can't be a normal company and just make an ISO image like every other PC operating system. So. Sanus Mac Easter. Yeah. So yeah, I'll eventually finish my blog post about that because even though it was really difficult getting there, I think it's really funny. But
yeah. So
Austin said it's $1,800 with $350 store credit and a $700 trade-in for the Pixel 8 Pro. Okay, so at least they're doing an okay trade-in, but how many people are jumping from the 8 Pro to the 9 Pro Fold? It's like 7 people.
I mean, I could see there actually being a fairly sizable group. If you're the kind of person who previously said folding phones weren't for me, or you didn't like their previous trade-in, and this time around you're like, you know what, it's time. I'm ready to jump with 2 feet in on the folding phone. I could see that person being out there, but that's about it. Like, I don't know. Still, it's a good trade-in. And the thing is, I'm actually going to argue some of Google's pre-order deals are pretty decent on the phones. Because if you're willing to, you don't have to be a new sign up to Fi. If you just sign up, or sorry, if you just pick up a Pixel 9 of any kind, or well, actually, I don't know about the Fold, but I think the Fold counts for this too. If you just pick up any of the Pixel phones and activate them on Fi and keep them on there for whatever period of time, they're knocking off $350. Look, you don't even have to do a trade-in, and you're getting a actual good discount. And they have discounts with, I think, all of the carriers. Not all of them were announced immediately, but I think all the carriers are offering discounts. And they're not all the best deals, but they're not bad. So, and again, like most of them, you don't really even need to mess with a trade-in. So that's not, it's hard to complain too much about that. There's ways they could be better. They absolutely should be better, but I'm not going to fault them for actually making pretty good use of this stuff. And discounts that are actually reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't really have a like functioning newish Android device anymore because I sold a bunch of stuff and the rest of it is like old. You know, I have like I was testing a web app on like some like Verizon lock review unit I can't sell or get rid of, and it's running like Android 11 or something. So if the need arises for me to have like a modern Android thing again to test stuff, I'd probably get a base Pixel 9. It does seem pretty good.
I mean, would you? Wouldn't you?
Either that or
we don't know
either
yet
that
if
or
there's going to be an A series phone. The rumors are suggesting there won't be, though. I think I am really doubtful about those rumors.
I mean, I don't know why there wouldn't be, but it would presumably still be on that same 6-month interval. I don't know how far the A phones are from the normal ones at this point.
I would just say in the neighborhood of 6 months. Like, maybe it's 7, maybe it's 8, maybe it's 5. But it's in that neighborhood, and that's close enough. And yeah, I think the A series phones are still really good buys. Like they're great value propositions. So, you know, why not? They just lack some of those sort of premium feel, quality of life aspects.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what I need, but like it would also be good just for writing purposes to have all the AI bells and whistles. Yeah, it would depend.
Corbin the AI shill.
Well, you know, I gotta be in the loop sometimes. You know. Again, I prefer it if someone just said if I could get a review unit of a Flippy Boy, but
yeah, that's fair.
That does not happen yet. My most recent review was the Snapdragon laptop that I was excited about, and then it like doesn't work for half the things I wanted, so that was disappointing.
but I would argue that what you were looking for was to be able to try it out and find out for yourself.
Yeah, that's true. I got that experience. I got a little bit of content out of it. I'd like to write more content, but I've been unable to write things lately. So
this is true. And also,
for those not in the loop, the How to Geek news operation has massively scaled up. So I'm now doing a lot of editing and not a lot of writing.
Yes. So. Austin, just to answer the question, no, I won't be reviewing the Buds Pro 2, or at least I have not been asked to, and I doubt I will be, because when it comes to Google events, and this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier. There's basically two people who just take all the review units for those, and that's it. They don't really split that up or share them around, which is pretty much not exactly, but pretty close to how AP has always been. There's usually whoever is kind of in charge of a particular space just takes all the review units from that specific space. And then there are other reviewers who cover maybe other niches, or more broadly they hit specific things or might get assigned something. But yeah, I have not reviewed anything straight from Google since the original Google Home, and that was actually a fluke that I even reviewed that. And well, yeah, there was one or two other kind of oddball accidents, but Cody is drones and scraps. I mean, it's kind of true, though I keep stumbling into other and different things as time goes by, so you never know. That and
I'm looking forward to Cody's review of the Pixel NAS and the Pixel drone.
Hey, if things go the way that they've been going, you never know. Google might get into doing the drone business someday.
Yeah, I mean, if your competition's kicked out, hell yeah.
Someone's got to do it, right?
I mean, Google drone would go hard. I mean, that's basically what, like, they could copy. No. Was it Snapchat that made the like little camera drone thing?
That'd be so bad.
They would try something like that, I'm sure.
I'm actually going to argue.
Take a picture, instantly syncs to Google Photos.
I think that Google doing a drone would go over about as well as Google still having a true, like, a stereotypical social network, which was Google Plus. I remember me saying that the best thing that ever happened to Google was killing Google Plus, not because they got rid of a service that was actually probably going to succeed, but because they got rid of a service ahead of the United States government deciding that all social networks are terrible, evil monsters. Look, they already have enough to deal with YouTube. If they still had Google Plus, it would just be a disaster. Now imagine a company that's already got a reputation for kind of spying on users and knowing too much about them. Imagine them owning a drone company. Nothing but terrible. That is going to make people so paranoid. And kind of rightfully so.
Maybe. I don't know. They seem to have got minimal flack for having like smart doorbells, which I think are about, I would rate as more creepy than drones for me personally, but maybe the rest of the world thinks differently.
I think of some of the things that I've seen people record with drones, and it's like, yeah, that seems worse. At least the doorbell.
I mean, yeah, it's not good.
One specific.
It's
location.
not good, but yeah, when I know I'm thinking about that when I go walk in like the only like well lit place at night, which is like the neighborhood down the street, and I'm walking past like every single house I'm walking past has like a smart doorbell staring me. I'm like, I'm now in like 40 people's video storage, just because I'm going for a walk. That's always fun to think about.
Okay, so for reasons, I'm not going to get too specific about this, but if you ever find yourself in a position where you're doing something that is, I'm just going to say minorly illegal, no more detail than that, and
you know what my NAS is doing right now.
no, not that kind of minorly illegal.
Right.
But yeah, if you find yourself having to do something minorly illegal, I remember a time in history where walking down the street doing said minorly illegal thing would be definitely a like, you wouldn't worry about doing that in the middle of the night because no one would be awake, no one would be watching you, and there'd be no video proof of it. These days, I know full well I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and I still know that I'm showing up on people's videos, and it's like, yeah, I kind of wish this weren't a thing, and that I could do this minorly illegal thing without being spotted. And now I 100% have people going, what? Why does he keep saying minorly illegal? What is he doing? And I'm not gonna tell you.
No, that's for your imagination. And while you're also imagining what I'm gonna do now, because I'm going now.
I'm choosing to believe that you're going to a last minute movie showing of, what would it be? I don't know yet, but oh, you're gonna go see Borderlands. That's what it is.
Oh. I really lucked out because I had the $5 to spend on a movie ticket, and the main options I was looking at was Borderlands or the new Aliens movie. Borderlands completely bombed in every review, and the new Aliens was like over 90% on Rotten Tomatoes as of today when the first reviews dropped. So I lucked out getting that one. It's at 82% now, but that's still pretty good.
Well, whatever percentage that's fallen is about the percentage that Borderlands has gone up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is still not great.
Yeah. Although it is a horror movie, so I'm a scaredy bitch. So we'll see how that goes, but that's okay. Anyway, goodbye for now.
All right. Well, enjoy whatever you're gonna go do or watch.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
Later. Okay. Let's see. Pop that on. Okay. So Curvy predicting that I'm walking around naked at 3 a.m. You know what? I'm gonna keep things I'm gonna keep complicating this more by saying, yeah, no kidding, I do that. That's not what I'm trying to hide. Which is half true, half not, but yeah, actually more than I probably should. Let's see. Blood Boy for Peter Thiel. Oh jeez. That's a special one. And I expect that he's the type of person who would only accept like blood from I'm picturing like anemic gingers or something. You know, he seems like he's got to have rare blood. Let's see. Austin, but I'm the earbud guy now. If you look at most of the earbuds that I've reviewed in the last like year and a half, it's almost entirely the ones with smart cases, which is kind of neat. Like, look, if there's going to be a niche, that's kind of a neat niche to have. I dig it, because number one, earbud cases have been boring, and the fact that they're putting screens in them, touch screens, is kind of awesome. And two, and this is just totally as an aside, but JBL, one, they've definitely got the best smart case, and two, their PR is super cool. They're actually just some of the nicest people I've worked with, so you know, cheers to them. I just dig working with them. A lot better than some of the other PR departments I've worked with in the past. Some of them are great. I'm not saying others are all bad, but there are some that are really bad. There's some that are really good, and most in between. But JBL has been like one of the absolute best. Let's see. Okay, and I think got everything up above. Let's see. So they did also announce, obviously, well, before talking about the watch, I'll quickly address the earbuds. From everything I can tell, it actually sounds like the earbuds were kind of the big winner in this event. Because it's the one spot where they improved everything. Or most everything. So they highlighted, obviously, that they have a new, I believe it was called the A1. Yeah, the A1, the Google Tensor A1 chip, which is doing a lot of on-chip processing for stuff that previously was, either kind of handed off to a phone, or it makes the earbuds basically better at transmission, better at noise canceling, better at battery life, better at this, better at that. Like, they presumably improved almost everything. Plus, they changed the design of them to add the twist to lock feature, which Austin mentioned wasn't working super great for him, but I'm assuming that this does work for more people, or more people than the old model did. So that's cool. I still don't have any personal super big interest in them. Not that I think anything would be wrong with them. I just, if you're one of those people who happens to be in a situation where you already have a lot of earbuds around, the last thing that you're doing is looking at one more pair and going, ooh, I can't wait to get those. So yeah, it's one thing I'm not super interested in buying for myself. Let's see. Austin, maybe your earbud tips were too small. Yeah, that's, I would assume that's probably it. Carson, Google Tensor Google One chip. I like it. So yeah, they probably are the biggest individual step we're probably going to see from any of the Pixel Buds line. It's gonna be this one, because from here on out, like, Google may release like a Tensor A2 or something. They might release, well, yeah, I think it's just going to be like Tensor A2, Tensor A3 eventually. Like, they'll keep updating this chip, but other than that, the earbuds probably are not going to change too radically from generation to generation from here on out, until there's like a big brand new features in the audio space that all of a sudden they have to support in order to be relevant. Let's see. They also announced the watch. The watch, if I recall, was mostly like it there was some good stuff here, but it was a lot of the things like, let's see, coming right back down to it. It was stuff like the pulse detection mode, which is a very cool feature. I dig that they have it, but it's something that obviously not everyone is going to make extensive use out of. The vast majority of people probably are not going to need that feature, which is great. It's the type of feature you want to not have to use, but yeah. Let's see. I'm quickly skimming down a post to see if there was any, or what the other. Of course they released two different sizes. They now have a 41mm and a 45mm. The 45 is the new larger size. The 41 is what previous Pixel watches already had. So for people who are looking for the bigger size, that's significantly larger. I would kind of like to see what the larger size would look like on my wrist, but I'm not. I'm not super keen on ordering the Pixel Watch 3 because okay, so they increased the screen brightness, they added the pulse detection, which technically was already there, just they're making it, I guess, better. Let's see. Supposedly they're just adding some more Google integration, presumably longer battery life. I think that was about it. So it sounds like a good update, but it's very much sort of the we don't have anything big to show off update. And for that reason, I'm kind of thinking if I was going to, like, I don't need to replace my watch right now. And since I don't need to replace it, I think this is a good time just to shrug and say, yeah, next time. At least for now. Was there anything else? I don't think there was. The AI stuff, again, yeah, we pretty much talked through that. Yeah, I'm skimming through. And okay. Yeah, I think that was about it. Overall, decent looking phones, decent looking watch. The Pixel Buds Pro actually, like, really a good improvement. But the whole event, oops. Yeah, let's kill that window. Cool. The whole event looks good. They definitely had things to announce, but there wasn't much that was like a steal the show, I'm really, really excited for it kind of thing. They had little stuff that's kind of neat. You know, I see it and it's like, ooh, I kind of like the phones, but is it really worth it? I'd kind of like the watch, but is it really worth it? There's all the things kind of hit that point for me. So at least at the moment, I haven't decided to order anything. I'm still somewhat debating if it's maybe worth picking up a phone on Fi because the discount is pretty significant. But the other part of me is still just looking at it going, yeah, or I could just, not spend any money at all. Which is also looking appealing. One thing that lousy pre-order bonus too. For regular pre-order bonus, I would agree. Again, if you're getting it on like a carrier, and getting it on Fi is like no commitment or obligation level of stuff. I mean, there is technically a commitment and obligation, but it's pretty low. It's definitely not like the bill credit BS that AT&T and Verizon pull. So one thing that did stand out to me, obviously, the Gemini Live demo, particularly with the voices. I said this in Discord. I really want to emphasize how much the voices, I swear the one that they played the most, Ursa, sounds exactly like the voice of Andy Allo, who is an actress on the show Upload. Let's see. For those who don't know who I'm talking about, let's just popping up a picture. This is who I'm talking about. She just there's a specific tone to her voice, how she speaks. I swear every single response that they had that Ursa voice giving sounded exactly like her to my ear. And it kind of there was no avoiding it. I just, through the whole thing, I kept thinking, this is going to be the Scarlett Johansson situation all over again, isn't it? Like, we're about to have, you know, one or more actors and actresses getting mad because Google probably aped someone's voice, whether intentionally or not. They aped someone's voice, and I kind of think that's, you know, it's not going to be the ScarJo situation, but it could end up being exactly like the ScarJo situation by accident. Let's see. So, was there anything else at the time? Okay. So, I think that was pretty much everything. Okay. So, yeah. That was about it. It was definitely, it was an event. The ScarJo situation, it was OpenAI. Sam Altman wanted to use her voice for OpenAI's thing, and he was really obsessed with it. He ended up like hiring an actress to do sound alike to ScarJo, and basically copied her voice without her permission, even if it was someone else's voice technically. And she got outraged. She basically sued, or at least threatened to. I forget now if that reached lawsuit status. But yeah, that was the situation. So it had nothing to do with Google. It was all about OpenAI and Sam Altman. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody else just happens to sound, or somebody reasonably litigious sounds like, or one of the voices, sorry, I'm saying this badly. If one of the voices Google used sounds too much like somebody who's reasonably litigious and willing to go after Google for it, because if they did, yikes. It's not a good time to make that mistake, because right now the issues with ScarJo are still pretty fresh. Let's see, Austin, wondering if they add Fitbit Premium and Nest Aware after everyone's 1 year expires. I'm betting they don't. I could see maybe one of them. Certainly not both. And in general, I think Google is keeping their subscriptions separate. It maybe not rightfully, but I think they're doing it because they're trying to offer a la carte. And the problem is, in the long run, they're charging people more, which, yeah, isn't wonderful. But yeah. Diablo, they just need to make one plan cover all. I still can't get behind that, just because there's so much stuff that Google offers in a subscription of one kind or another, and I don't know about everyone else, but I just don't want like half of it, and the other half, Wyatt thing, like half of it I don't want at all, and the other half I want only a little bit, but not enough to get it. So yeah, I think they could do better. Gemini Live is just timed exclusive to the AI Plan 2? Question mark. Yeah. Pretty sure it is, and logically it would be. Because look, why keep that away from other people if it's a way to make money? I don't. Google is not a hard lock-in company, and of course, I triggered. Okay, just one device with that. One of these days it'd be so nice if things did not auto trigger every time I say the company name. Yeah, so I think that about covers it. I didn't prepare any other topics, but yeah, I think it was an event, but not like the event. Nothing jumped out at me and made me go, "Oh my god, it's so cool. I really need this." The most I saw, and I saw it mentioned elsewhere, is, or somebody mentioned this in Discord, the coolest thing that they really showed off was that their AI stuff is actually getting integrated. So things that happen with AI can actually be like directly connected to apps. And vice versa, you can have apps that pass stuff to Gemini. That is cooler. It's not perfect. There's still room to go, but that's a lot cooler than a lot of what we've seen. So, you know, good for them. I'm moderately impressed, I guess, but I'm not overly excited either. Like, it's neat that they're doing some stuff, but there's a lot of room to improve and grow. Anyway, with that, I think it is probably a good time to wrap, because it's actually getting really hot in my office, and I intend to go take a nap. So let's see. Carson, definitely gonna wait until any sales to decide whether it's worth getting anything. Yeah, that's the other thing, is if we've seen enough of Google's history to know that the sales are usually going to get pretty steep not too long after. And seeing as they actually have an even larger gap between now and Black Friday, I think the Black Friday sales are actually going to be very sizable this time around. So, yeah, if anyone's inclined to wait until then, you're probably going to get crazy good deals in November. And who knows, that might be the better way to go about it these days. So yeah. Let's see. I think that about wraps it up. So, hopefully I will not have trouble with waking up for game streams this weekend. So probably going to be about the typical time. Saturday and Sunday, some Fall Guys, some Overwatch. That I think will be the plan. Yeah, last week, Sunday, I did not make it. I slept through my alarm and just there was no waking me. Which it tends to happen because I've also got a cat that really likes to wake me at unfortunate times. And once that happens, sometimes I cannot sleep. Sometimes I don't get to go to sleep in the first place because of her. It's a cat. Anyway, so next week should be a pretty normal RambleCast. I don't anticipate anything too unique or different. And yeah, that's about it. So, for those who would like to support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. And of course, huge thanks to Carson, David, Austin, Diablo, and Kirby Mermaid. Y'all are awesome for supporting the channel. And y'all are awesome anyway. I mean, just all around. Excellent people. And let's see. I think that, yeah. yeah, nothing else too special to say. May I suggest, don't let all the negative and crazy news of the world get to you. Uh, enjoy the summer, enjoy the good weather, or whatever. But with that, I'm going to call this one a night. I hope you all have an excellent rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Good night, everybody.